Hey guys, this is Michael, aka Epsilon Minus, and this is the deck I'm taking into the next DE, which is the first one after the new banned and restricted list changes took place, putting Lodestone Golem and Sphere of Resistance on the list. It is also the first online tournament where Born of the Gods has been released, and I decided to build this deck around one of the new cards from Born of the Gods, Spirit of the Labyrinth. Um, so I'm going to start with the mana base for this deck. I've got 8 fetch lands, 6 duels, and a basic island. This is a Esper deck, so it's blue, white, black. Got 3 Cavernous Souls, which can name either Wizard or Spirit. And those two creature types basically cover every creature, both in my main deck and sideboard. I'm also running 3 Wastelands and a Strip Mine, as well as 2 Caracas, which are good against Oath, but also good because I have some legendary creatures that I can bounce in Vendilion Clique and Geist of St. Traft. And there's actually a neat trick that you can do with Vendilion Clique, where if you have a Spirit of the Labyrinth out, they don't get to draw the replacement card if they've already drawn their card for the turn. So you can use Click plus Caracas to kind of almost like repeatedly thought seize them without paying any life, which is pretty nice. Um, so let's start with the creature base. Spirit of the Labyrinth, it's the new card from Born of the Gods. Each player can't draw more than 1 card each turn. And the original genesis of the idea for the deck was Enderfall, who's a prominent classic player who writes for MTGO Academy. Didn't like the design of this card and basically said that nobody would ever put it into a blue deck. So I decided that I was going to put it into a blue deck. So basically, this is usually pretty bad news for blue because blue's kind of the card drawer. But I'm running some alternative card advantage engines to get around the symmetry of this card. I'm running 4 Dark Confidants, and due to the wording on the card, you're not actually drawing the card, you're revealing it and putting it into your hand, so it gets around the restriction of Spirit. And I'm also running 4 Snapcaster Mage, which isn't card advantage in terms of drawing a card, but you can reuse a card in the graveyard, basically. So my other creatures, 3 drops, Vendilion Click. I've kind of already explained why he is in the deck. Also synergizes with Spirit. I went with Geist of St. Traft mainly because he's a spirit and he can be rescued with Caracas in case of a sweeper. This might be better as True Name Nemesis, but I kind of like Geist, and I'm also kind of banking on a lot of blue control type decks and Storm possibly in this first tournament after the restrictions. The other card I have is Aven Mind Sensor, which is pretty nicely complementary with Spirit of the Labyrinth because it stops them from searching their library, and it's a one-sided effect, so I can still use my Demonic Tutor and my Vampiric Tutor. It's also a wizard, so it goes nicely with Cavern. In terms of my spell base, I have the aforementioned tutors, Demonic and Vampiric, which can be reused with Snapcaster. I am running a couple Thought Seizes, which are pretty nice, especially with Spirit out, because they can't brainstorm in response to hide good cards. Well, they could, but it'd be very bad for them. They can't, respond with a draw spell to recoup the card advantage. So it kind of goes nicely with the rest of the deck's plans. Also running 3 Swords to Plowshares. Pretty self-explanatory, kind of the premier creature removal, can be snapped back. My counter base, I'm running 4 Force of Wills, and this is definitely a little bit shaky as far as the blue counts. It's on the low side, but I haven't regretted having this yet. I've been at least somewhat reliably able to cast it. Um, and then the rest of my counter suite, I'm running 3 mental missteps, which are pretty good, especially encountering removal for your Spirit of the Labyrinth, like a Nature's Claim or a Lightning Bolt or something like that, or a Swords. 3 Spell Pierces, Steel Sabotage against the artifact decks can also bounce something like Blightsteel, and a Flusterstorm against the control decks and the storm decks. Um, Misstep definitely got better with the restrictions, which is why I upped the count. Uh, in terms of the sideboard, I'm a little bit less sure about this because I'm a little less sure of what the metagame will look like. It used to be, stacks and affinity all the way around, so it's pretty easy to sideboard, but I have no idea what's going to be on this tournament. However, I do know that I'm probably going to need some Dredge Hate, so I have 4 Ley Lines, 2 Yixlids, and an Extirpate, which I've found to be a pretty nice package, and Black decks also doesn't interfere too much with my Snapcaster, which is nice. I'm running an extra Flusterstorm for the blue mirrors. I have a Disenchant for any type of shop deck as well as Oath of Druids. I maybe should have one more. I'm not 100% sure. I figure I can get some mileage out of it with Snapcaster. I'm running a couple Zealous Persecutions. Another card I'm not 100% sure about, but I don't have a lot of good answers to a True Name Nemesis. So I'm giving this card a try. It's kind of nice because it also pumps your guys. It would also be good against any type of weenie type strategy. Running a Stony Silence, which is actually good against Affinity again now that Lodestone's been restricted. Also good against equipment or any deck running Key Vault. Running a couple Katakis. It used to be 3, but I cut down to 2 because I'm hoping it won't be quite as necessary as it has been in the past. But I'm not expecting the artifact decks to go away, so I want to have this just in case. It's also a Spirit, which goes nicely with the rest of the deck. And Yixla Jailer is also a Wizard, which also goes nice with the rest of the deck. And then the final thing is an Energy Flux. It's originally a Hercules, but with Sphere and Lodestone being restricted, I think Hercules got a lot worse because you don't really need to bounce all their prison pieces. And Hercules is pretty mediocre against Affinity, so I decided to go with Energy Flux over the third Kataki or Disenchant, largely because it's blue, which makes Force of Will a little bit easier to be supported. So this is my deck. I'm hoping that it does well. Definitely interested to see how this card does in Classic. Hasn't seen a lot of Legacy or Vintage plays as of yet. But thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy the matches.